What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Nate here from Out of the Basement, bringing you a brand new figure review. Today, we are doing our second ever McFarlane Toys review on the channel. Today, we are looking at the Night King from Game of Thrones. I haven't bought a McFarlane toy, a modern McFarlane toy, in a long time. A long time. We're talking years, people. But when they announced the Game of Thrones figures, I thought they looked pretty good, and I am a massive fan of the TV show. And McFarlane, despite the lacking articulation, they do know how to make some impressive details, and I feel like they always do monsters pretty well. So the Night King looked like a easy pickup for me, so I definitely grabbed him when I found him at Target. Let's take a look at the package here. A closer inspection. It says Game of Thrones. It says the Night King on the side. You've got the HBO McFarlane Toys 12 Plus logo. You have the back side, which shows the other figures in the wave. I don't think I'm going to pick up any of the human characters. Target had Jon and Dany. I did not get to see Arya in person. Jon looks alright. Dany looks like she's a crackhead in the figure, especially in the eyes. They're like very big and wide open, so it looks weird. And Viserion, you know, why is he so small? I get making a giant in-scale dragon would probably be a little ridiculous, but come on. He's smaller than like all of these figures, so he just seems out of place, and I really wish we could have gotten an in-scale one. However, I understand that that would probably be insanely expensive, and probably no one would actually be willing to buy it. But I am happy with the selection that we have. Hopefully this line will continue, and maybe they can update the articulation a little bit, because these guys still do have some of that really dated articulation. We're going to go ahead and take a look at his accessories and then the figure itself. And now, my inbox collectors. Open them up. Open them up. Okay, so for his accessories, he does come with a stand right here, which is just a nice shiny black base that says Game of Thrones on it, and he does come with his ice sword, which is translucent just a little bit. It's pretty cloudy, but I think that looks awesome. I'm a sucker for translucent plastic, so anytime I can get some of that is always a good time. You can see that the weapon actually has some nice little bits of silver detail on the handle, and I think that the black over the bone-ish colored painted plastic looks pretty good, and you can see that it continues all the way down through the weapon. I think that's a nice little bit of good detail, and the actual blade itself does have like that icy looking texture to it, which is nice. And then he also has the spear as well, which again, the same thing, that nice icy looking translucent plastic. Moving into the handle, you can see the bits of detail there are really nice. Love the black wash over the handle. Definitely adds a little bit of dimension to the nice details that McFarlane is usually pretty good at. It's just when they get to the articulation department, they're like, wait, what? So let's go ahead and take a look at the Night King himself. So here is the Night King himself out of the packaging, looking really awesome. The paint apps on him and the general overall details of the figure look great. Again, though, it is a McFarlane toy, so the articulation is going to be limited, which can be frustrating for some collectors, but these already look 1 billion times better than the shitty Funko Game of Thrones figures we got a few years back. So thankfully, at least we have good, or at least one good looking Game of Thrones figure. The humans they're not terrible. They're definitely better than the Funko figures, but I still think there is a little bit of room for improvement. But the Night King looks great. Looks like he just popped right out of the show, honestly. So let's go ahead, take a closer look. We'll get him off the stand here. And just for the sake of channel first, you know, Anthony Customs, I'm coming for you. But I will be doing a little bit of a measurement so you can get a sense of how tall he is, because it is a 6-inch scale figure. They seem a little short to me, so he is just almost right at 6 inches, maybe a little bit above, and you can see that makes him just about 15 centimeters as well. So he does seem a little short for a 6-inch scale figure, but are you really planning on trying to mix and match this guy into like your Marvel Legends or something? I kind of doubt it, but I think it's good for what it is. So taking a closer look here, you can see the nice, wonderful detail that McFarlane Toys always brings to monster-looking characters. The crevices of his face, the sort of wrinkled look that the Night King has. His blue eyes as well look really good. And you can see that he's kind of looking in like a menacing, like looking up direction. And you can see here the wonderful paint, the different blues, the light blue into the darker blue for the cracks of the head. Just look really good, and it translated really well to this figure. And he does have some more like lighter blue points on the front of his armor, specifically around the chest and shoulder pads there. But man, the detail is just really nice. Looks just like the show. Probably couldn't ask for a better representation of the Night King in this scale for this price point. Maybe the articulation could have been a little bit better, but honestly, it's not even as bad as I'm sort of making it out to be, at least in my opinion. So you can see here, taking just another once over on the figure, he has all of the wraps and bands on the figure, and the joints actually are pretty well hidden, I think. They're kind of hard to see. He does have these nice little elbow pads to hide them, and of course his skirt hides all of the underneath articulation, which it is a nice soft plastic, so he will be able to get some range out of his lower articulation. So let's go ahead and jump into the articulation itself. You can see right here, the head is on a ball joint, but you do not have that much movement out of it. It is a pretty stiff ball joint. His head doesn't really move back very far, only looks forward just a little bit, and turning it is sort of also pretty resistant. But you can see you get a decent amount of motion out of the Night King. His arms do move out pretty far. They do actually have a swivel on them as well, so that is nice. Single jointed elbow, that does get you 90, so at least we have that. And the wrist is on a ball joint, so you do also have some decent articulation in there so that you can get him into like a spear throwing position if that's what you want. No ab crunch or anything like that, but he does have a swivel right there. And if we pop open his skirt right there, you can see the legs. They do kick out a decent amount, and they do go to the sides as well. Even better, because it has those old, like, I think they're like T-joint hips or something. It's kind of hard to see on camera because it's so dark in there, but he does even have nice details on his pants underneath the legs itself. So those go back. Single jointed knees, which don't really give you much there, but I mean, like I said, when you're buying McFarlane, you're buying for the look, the details, the paint apps. You're not really buying for the articulation. And the ankles are also on a ball joint, so you do get ankle pivot, and it does move up and down ever so slightly, and they do pop off pretty easy. Right when I took him out of the package, he popped straight off. One thing I will say, it is pretty scary how tight his hands are, especially when you're trying to put a weapon in his hands. I had the spear in this hand, but I definitely had to bend the thumb quite a bit to get it in there. There's no real easy way to pop them in, so just be careful. His hands are soft plastic, so they should be able to move apart pretty easily, but how much you have to move them does kind of concern me a little bit, because you could potentially cause some damage to the figure. So my final thoughts on the Night King is that it is a pretty good attempt from McFarlane Toys. The articulation is surprisingly not so bad. Not as bad as some McFarlane Toys in the past. I do recall them saying that moving forward they are going to be using their Fortnite articulation scheme on all of their figures in the future, so hopefully maybe Wave 2 of Game of Thrones, if we get one of those, they'll have even better articulation. But for the Night King, I mean, at least so far in the show, we haven't seen him do anything like, you know, like some ninja shit or something, so it's fine having the hindered articulation on the Night King. The details, of course, are very impressive. Looks, like I said, like he just jumped right out of the show into my action figure review station. And of course, when you compare them, I don't have any of the old Funko toys, but I remember seeing them in stores and just kind of laughing at them. I can tell you, at least based on memory, that this is 100% better than the old Funko toys, so at least we're finally getting decent 6-inch scale Game of Thrones figures. Took them long enough to get these out, or at least have HBO give the rights to someone who actually gives a shit, not a company that pretty much abandoned all of their action figure lines when their pop vinyls blew up. So I'm going to have to recommend this figure if you are a fan of Game of Thrones and you collect toys. I would say, why not? The human characters, I'm not really so sure about. Like I said, Jon looks alright. I didn't get to see Arya in person, but Dany definitely looks a little cracked out in action figure form. But of course, McFarlane always does monsters justice, so the Night King is probably the best looking of the bunch. I believe these hit Target before they hit any other store, but they are not exclusive to Target. They just happen to get them first in their big Game of Thrones merchandise section now. So thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed my review, don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe if you are new, turn on notifications so you know when we are uploading. We're always talking about action figures, we're reviewing them, we're doing our talk show called Figure It Out. Of course, we're talking about Blu-rays and movies too, so if any of that sounds interesting, stay right here on Out of the Basement. I'm Nate, and I will see you guys next time.